Hello and welcome back to another Hearthstone discussion video. My name's Lumin. Right now we're going to have a look at the upcoming changes to the game. So this patch is set to go live sometime this week, bar any catastrophes on their side, which is kind of a big deal because it came out of nowhere. And what's also a big deal is the severity of some of the changes they're making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the post with you guys, and I will also, just before even jumping into this, say that I'm a big fan of what they're going for here. So firstly, they mentioned that they want, and this is something that they kind of trying to push with the changes that they're making, but they want to have the game be a more interactive experience. They don't want too many one-turn kill decks out there. They don't want too many things out of the player's control. So basically, with things like Pyroblast, with the one-turn kill warrior decks, and I suppose a couple of other examples could be used, it's really boring in that the player on the receiving end doesn't really have much that he or she could do. They can try DPS as fast as possible, but that's it. If they don't do enough damage before that big one-turn kill happens, then they just lose. And they have no say in the matter. So they want it to be a more back and forth thing. They want it to be an interactive experience between the two players and not completely one-sided. And that is something that you should probably keep in mind while I read these changes to you, or at least show them to you as well. And then the other thing is that they are quite clearly showing that they don't really want to just release new sets of cards to try and fix balance changes. Instead, they want to work on the cards that they have now and try perfect them. And I like that approach. I really do. It gives us as players more time to get to know the cards intimately, to get to know all the different combinations that you can get going with these cards. It's fun. Now with that said and done, with that yak out of the way, let's move on to the post proper. Thank you so much for continuing to playtest and give feedback on Hearthstone as the closed beta test-in phase begins to draw to a close. We are monitoring card balance over time, and without your continued testing efforts, we wouldn't have the necessary data we need in order to make changes to cards that may warrant them. This should be our last big set of balance changes. Once we go live, we plan to make very few card changes and only if absolutely necessary. So that's kind of cool. It's good to hear that we are approaching the end of the closed beta test and that everyone will be able to play soon enough. But the card changes that they are making are being made to the following cards: Unleash the Hounds, Sylvanas Windrunner, Blood Imp, Defender of Argus, Pyroblast, Dark Iron Dwarf, Abusive Sergeant, Warsong Commander, Charge, and Novice Engineer. So those are some big name cards that we are seeing in play a whole lot right now, and some of the changes are pretty drastic. Some of them are nerfs, some of them are buffs, but here we go. Unleash the Hound's mana cost is now 2, down from 4. They say here that that was, the card itself at least, was intended to give hunters their own form of AoE and to have synergy with the other beast cards in the hunter's collection, but because it cost 4, it was a little bit difficult to use. And I think, given that it's going down to 2 mana, that's a pretty huge change. It's half the mana cost. It's going to be in every single hunter deck. It really is. I think it would be silly not to use it, because it's good. It's really good, especially against rush type decks. And if you try get some like silly combos off with things like the Buzzard, maybe the Cult Master, I don't know, perhaps other minions that can buff the hounds themselves. It's crazy. It really is. Then Pyroblast's mana, and I will just say I definitely approve of that. Pyroblast's mana cost is now 10, up from 8, and this is tying in 100% with the interactive experience thing I was talking about. Turn 8 Pyro, that was too deadly. It was too easy. Just straight up doing 10 damage on turn 8. It's not an interactive experience if you can just try and, let's say, whittle your opponent down, and then on turn 8 Pyroblast once, turn 9 Pyroblast again, GG. Nothing your opponent can do about it. Kinda sucked. So I'm all for that change. Now it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I suppose you can't play it in combination with something like a Frostbolt on 10 mana. You can't play Bloodmage Thalnos along with a Pyroblast. You can't Pyroblast and then ping for 1 damage. There's a lot of things that are going to change because of that. Then Blood Imp is now a 0/1, and it reads Stealth. At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1 health. So it's the same effect, or at least the same ability as the Young Priestess. And I gotta say, I like it. I like the change. It was way too strong with the stats that it had before, and if you combine that with the fact that it could potentially heal your minions when it died, that sucked as well. It basically negated some of the damage they took, because when it disappeared, it didn't drop their health down to the proper level, and that was a big deal. It was way too strong for 1 cost. I suppose alternatively they could have made it a 2-cost minion, but I think that the change that they did make now is better. Then, Warsong Commander has been reworked and now reads, whenever you play a minion with 3 or less attack, give it charge. That's it. So that's probably just in response to the silly amount of different types of warrior 1-turn kill decks. So I'm happy to see that happen. Although I haven't really fallen prey or been victim of that many of those. And usually when I see a Warsong Commander, I kill it as quick as possible. But there you go. So it only works on minions with 3 attack or less. And honestly, I still think it would be worth using in certain decks. But I suppose there's going to be far less appeal now for most people because people don't use those kind of decks. They just want the warrior 1-turn kill decks. Then, Charge, the spell, not the keyword, has been reworked and now costs 3 mana, up from 0, and its power now reads, give a friendly minion +2 attack and charge. Kinda cool. I like it. It gives the card a little bit more versatility. Sure, 3 mana is actually a lot for something like that, but it's going to help a lot to prevent these 1-turn kills that were happening, so that's why they did it. That is exactly why they did it. Then there were 2 changes made, and these were to the Abusive Sergeant and Dark Iron Dwarf. The Dark Iron Dwarf's buff, that's +2 attack, is now exactly the same as the Abusive Sergeant's. It only lasts till the end of the turn, and the Abusive Sergeant's is now still the same with 2 attack, but you can now use it on your opponent's minions as well. So that you can just, you know, if you want to get that minion out, you don't need a friendly minion to target. It's kind of cool, I guess. And I think everyone will probably agree that paying 4 for a 6/4 was a bit much. At least 6/4 in terms of value. Little bit much. The Defender of Argus was changed down to a 2/3 from a 3/3, and I honestly don't think that that's the change they should have made to it. Sure, now it's got a little bit less attack. It is, I guess, going to be slightly less useful in that sense, but it's still going to be in every single deck just because it is still given 1/1 and taunt to those adjacent minions. I don't know if that's the best change. I honestly think a better change would have been to leave it exactly as it is and just make it give +0/1 and taunt to adjacent minions instead. That would have made it useful, but not too much. I mean, I'm still going to use Defender of Argus. There's no way I'm not going to use it just because it's now a 2/3. The main thing, with me at least, was that element of surprise. The fact that on turn 4 you could buff 2 smaller minions up by 1/1 each and give them taunt. That's what I used the card for, not for the fact that it was 3/3. Now possibly the biggest change, or at least I'd say probably the biggest change, just because of how many people it's going to affect compared to the rest of them. The Novice Engineer is now a 1/1, down from a 1/2. So this is huge, because everyone uses Novice Engineer, but I think it's a really good change, because there was no reason not to use the Novice Engineer. There was no incentive to use other minions that were smaller, that had similar types of roles. You always just chose the Novice Engineer because it was better, and I think that because the Novice Engineer was a 1/2, it kind of made it difficult to even consider using 1-drop cards. If someone's got a Novice Engineer in their deck and you are trying to play against them with a Argent Squire, a Worgen Infiltrator, a Leper Gnome, the person with a Novice Engineer who plays, say, on turn 2, they're always going to get better value out of it. Because they get to play their minion, the Novice Engineer, which is a 1/2, and they will always go 2 for 1 with any of those, because they always draw in a card, and they are able to trade with all those minions. So it's a big deal, but I think it was a really good change because now you're going to see a lot more creative stuff going on, and you're going to see people actually using those other 1 or even some of the 2-drop minions. And no, this doesn't immediately and instantly just make something like the Loot Hoarder better, because the Novice Engineer still gives you the card instantly. It's different. It's different and I like it. Then, Sylvanas Windrunner, and this is, to a lot of people also a really big change, is now 6 mana up from 5. That is it. Their thinking behind this was basically this, that on turn 5, a 5/5 with a Death Rattle as good as that was a bit much. It was a bit strong, and the card itself was just automatically being included in every single deck created because of the value that you got from it. So now, with it being 6 mana, people will think about it just a little bit. It'll still be used a lot, I'm almost certain of that, but it's going to be far less mandatory when you're making a deck to just throw the Sylvanas in there because it's so good. But that's it. Those are all the changes, and as with all the previous patches that they released, you can now, when this patch goes live, disenchant all the cards mentioned in here for full returns. Which means that if you have a golden Sylvanas Windrunner, then you can disenchant that baby for 3,200 dust. Get on that! You can disenchant that and get 2 new legendaries in its stead. Worth it. I would say that's well worth it. I personally wouldn't disenchant any golden cards, but if you're looking for dust, if you're looking for more versatility in your collection, then that's a good idea. You could even disenchant the golden Sylvanas, get a normal Sylvanas, and another legendary together with it. Might be worth it. But there you go. Let me know what you think about the changes. Which is your favorite? I personally obviously love the Unleash the Hounds change. The mana cost down to 2. I also kind of like the Novice Engineer change. But that's it. You can check back here soon for more discussion videos, more arena, more ranked play, more deck building, and all the rest. I will also just mention as one last point, it is very interesting that there weren't any changes made to any Druid cards. I mean, if anything, the Druids were buffed, the Mages were buffed, and the Rogues were buffed because, maybe only slightly, because they can now one-shot the Novice Engineers with their hero abilities. It may not sound like a big deal, but it actually is. Because people are still going to be using Novice Engineers, and now those 3 classes can kill them immediately. It's a big deal. But the slow roll Druid decks that are so popular right now, they are still going to be popular. They're probably going to be even more popular. Because the only card that they used that was changed was probably the Sylvanas. And that wasn't really that big a deal. But anyway. Again, check back here soon for more. Give this video a like, share it, and do all that other good stuff. Most importantly though, happy Hearthstone patch. And happy hoping it comes this week. Happy that.